Hello and welcome to Transformation Now. Hi, I'm Rita Rocker with SoaringHigher.Rocks, and I work a lot with people on communication skills, self-image, business professionalism, career development. And today I have one that really has a lot to do with our success regarding our attitude and how we get where we're going because of the attitudes that we have. And so this is going to be full of quotes, because I think these are so important and very helpful in life, and they've really made me stop and think about my attitudes and behaviors as I've read some of these, and you will recognize a lot of the famous names involved. And so I remember reading a really cool little article that somebody had included someone else's paperwork in, and it's called Attitudes That Make Us or Break Us. And this person who posted this, at the top of it said, "This kid will go far in life." And so I thought, I wonder what that's all about. And so what it was a teacher in grade school, I don't know what grade, had posted several questions about attitude and what would you do in this particular situation. And so the paper said, fill in the solutions. And it said directions. Read each of the problems and come up with a solution for each one. Well, this particular one, the person who read this, probably the teacher, really loved it. The question that was typed into the questionnaire was, you fell on the playground and you hurt your knee. What is your solution? And you can see in this printing that the child wrote on the other side, get up and deal with it. And I thought, oh my gosh, here's this kid, okay, get up and deal with it. You know, what else do you do? And so I certainly understand that about getting up, dusting off your knees, and getting back in the race. I remember when I was still Mrs. Nebraska and my husband had just died, and I was speaking at a women's conference, and these ladies came up to me afterwards and they said, well, your message sure wasn't what we expected. And I said, well, what were you expecting? And it's kind of like, well, we thought you were going to talk about a pageant and all the things you did. Well, I had a really hard year, and he passed away during that. And I said, no, my purpose is to talk with people and help them to get back up, dust their knees off, and get back in the race of life. And so that's basically what this little kid was saying is, get up and deal with it. And so that's what we need to do when we're having a hard time. You know, I love the little description of a pearl. We think of pearls, they're beautiful, they're lustrous, many of them are very valuable. Well, how did that pearl come to be? You know, really, the pearl came because of the result of an injury done to it in its little life. Because inside that oyster, there was a sharp, painful grain of sand that was irritating the oyster. So in their little oyster brain, you know, it's probably thinking, oh, this thing really hurts. So it starts exuding all this pearly liquid to coat the sand so that it can't hurt it anymore. And so that's what we do so many times in life is we have to coat the sand. We have to do what we need to do to either cover or get rid of that painful thing that's hurting us. We have to deal with it, like this kid said, get up and deal with it. And so you think of that pearl, that was a constant irritation inside that oyster. So it kept working at it, it had to work at it and be diligent, and then what developed out of that though? A beautiful pearl, out of what was very painful and very irritating. And then the oyster has what's called an adductor muscle, it's just a little muscle, when that's cut, then the oyster opens up and here's this beautiful pearl. So a lot of times I like to compare things that we go through to a situation like that, where it's just, oh my gosh, make beauty out of ashes. The phoenix has risen from the ashes, so to speak. You know, nature is full of so many examples, like a majestic oak tree, big, majestic, strong, powerful, but they started out as an insignificant little brown nut, okay? But they weathered the storms until they grew bigger and bigger. So the cold, the heat, the storms, whatever, they weathered the storms just like we do to become stronger and become more powerful in a way, bigger. You know, you also think of a beautiful rose. You know, when you look at a rose to start with, or you look at seeds in a package, it's like, oh, this is some shriveled up little thing. But as this rose, if it had a mind and could think, you know, it's buried into the ground, so it's dark, it's cold, it's, you know, all alone, this little rose would probably be thinking, I'm done for, I'm all alone, what do I do? And as the rains come down, though, which could be the storms of life, and then it starts to pop up through the ground, and then maybe it gets scorched by the sun, but all the time it's taking that in and it's working at it, and then this poor little lonely seed becomes a beautiful rose. And that's what happens to us. We just keep working through the storms, and then we get stronger, and then we can actually provide shade and life and beauty to those people around us. So we all have untapped resources. It's just a matter of thinking about what are the things that we have that we can offer to other people, because we all have many. You know, I like to say, and I've said before, today is a new beginning. I've had many in my life. Not when you're 20 pounds thinner, not when you can afford a new house or a new car, or have a, be remarried or have a new partner like your ex-spouse has possibly, because sometimes people let that get them down. But in Isaiah 43:18, it says, forget the former things and don't lean on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Don't you perceive it? I'm making springs in the desert and a way in the wasteland. And so I know there are times when I thought, oh yeah, right. But no, that's true. As we hold on to God, He does make springs in the desert and a way in the wasteland and get us through to the other side of the trials that many of us are going through, that many of you are going through right now. So remember that. Today is a new beginning. There's always something you can do each day to bring you forward into that new beginning. So ask yourself a few questions to see if maybe you need to give yourself a break. What if you took your child to other people to see if how you should look upon your child, how you should treat your child? Well, the same thing happens with us. What we allowed to happen, if you took your child to several friends to get the opinion, so you could determine if that child should feel better or worse about themselves. So many times, so-called friends or people or co-workers or whoever could say things that would cause us to have a particular opinion about ourselves that may not be the most favorable. And so those are the kind we have to let go and think, I learned a long time ago, I will take constructive criticism, but I will throw out destructive criticism. Because constructive criticism will help us to learn a new skill, help us to be better at something, maybe change our attitude, but it's constructive. It's meant to help us. So determine when somebody says something to you or does something, is this constructive or is it destructive? Because if it's destructive criticism, throw it out. That doesn't do anyone any good except make the other person feel better for putting someone else down. And so always think of constructive and destructive criticism. Another is always tell the child if he or she never does anything satisfactorily or could have done it better. We do that to ourselves enough. And so people will devalue us, just like I'm saying, what if people told, well, your child isn't worth much, can't do much. No, if it's devaluing to you, throw it out, okay? Again, that's a person's comment, and nobody has the right to determine our future or our self-worth, nothing. So many times when people are down and out and their behavior reflects that, it's because they're hurting inside. A lot of times when they're very angry, you think of that saying, hurting people hurt people. And that's so true. A lot of times we just need to realize what's going on underneath that's causing this person to lash out and to hurt other people. And a lot of times when you find out what the root cause is, it can totally change your attitude because you understand and you know how to help that person get beyond that. So that's so important. Never say thank you or that was a good job or keep trying, you're going to make it. There are people out there listening, I know, that do you ever tell yourself thank you or that you did a good job on something? And I've told people before, I said, okay, maybe you burnt the dinner, but instead of saying, oh, you dummy, can't you do anything right? You burned dinner, you say, hey, I made dinner. At least I made dinner. I made the choice to get up off the couch or to put that into my busy schedule and make dinner. So, sometimes we have to turn around some things like that. Keep trying, you're doing a great job. And you'll know that from some quotes I'm going to share in a minute. Never comment on the good, but dwell on the failures. If we comment on the good, that encourages us to keep going in the right direction. If we dwell on our failures, That's what we get. We get more of the same. So as much as a lot of people are dwelling on their failures right now and they're feeling very down and out, if you do that, it will continue to keep you down in failure and distress. And so always think about the good things that you've done, that you know you can do. Look at your heart. And most people really, deep down, have a heart. They want to help people. Never ask the child if you could make life easier or if you're asking too much. You know, sometimes it's hard for people to use the word no, but if it's not something that's really going to be helpful or beneficial, a lot of times you have to say no. Many times we don't want to say no if we're a people pleaser and we think, well, I want people to like me, and if I say no, they're not going to like me anymore. No. So just think about that. There are times when we must say no to take care of ourselves and our families. Never give the child time off even when there's more to do. Sometimes we do that. We push. Maybe we're a perfectionist because we feel like if I don't do everything perfectly, I won't be accepted. And so think about that. I have a niece who grew up as a perfectionist and pushed herself so hard because of the upbringing she had with her parents, but mostly her dad. And then her younger brothers kind of turned the other way, and instead of trying to be a perfectionist in order to be acceptable, they let themselves go. And you know, the youngest one was always told, shut up, you don't have anything to say. And so, you know, his life reflects that now. So a lot of times we say, hey, I'm giving myself a break. I'm letting go of this. I need to take care of me. And so a lot of times we just need to stop and take care of ourselves a little bit too along the way. Okay, so I'm going to share some quotes with you. These are by famous people. If you really stop and listen to them, there's so much in there that can really touch your heart and can help you maybe in an area that you might be struggling with. Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president, one of the most wonderful presidents who fought hard, who had a 20-year history of broken hearts, of being turned down for things, and competing for positions in government and then failing. So he really had to work hard to get to become president of the United States. And so he said, always bear in mind that your own resolution to succeed is more important than any other. So more important than anybody else's resolution. You know, a lot of times it could be especially a parent or a sibling, someone like that. They want you to succeed because it's a reflection on them. Like when parents will live vicariously through a child and say, no, you're going to go out for football. No, you're going to be a world-class musician, whatever the case may be, because they wanted to do that. Either they didn't get the chance, or maybe that just wasn't their area of talent. So they try to push someone else to succeed in that area to be proud of because they weren't able to do that. And so think about that. The resolution to succeed in what we want to do is most important. Okay, Mike Ditka, football player and coach, was famous in the NFL, said, you're never a loser until you quit trying. So as you've seen, you know, over the years, so many people that are famous tried and failed. Okay, but the reason they became a success, they were maybe a powerful inventor or world-class in some area, is because they never quit trying. And so that's what's important. We keep trying no matter what. Henry Ford, well, we all know Ford Auto Company, said, if money is your hope for independence, you'll never have it. The only real security the man will have in this world is a reserve of knowledge, experience, and ability. So we have to use knowledge, experience, and ability. We've seen stories where people who maybe won Publishers Clearinghouse or something like that, and they had millions of dollars, but they did not use knowledge, experience, or ability, and they ended up broken, just totally broke, flat broke, because they didn't use those. So money in itself is not independence necessarily, unless we also use our skills, ability, and our mind to preserve and to keep and manage what we have. Okay, George Washington Carver was a botanist. I remember reading stories from him. 99% of failures come from people who have the habit of making excuses. Oh, I can't do that. I don't have enough education. I don't have enough money. oh, I have this going on and that going on, so I'm going to have to wait a week, a month, next year, or something like that. And so people can go all through life making excuses. I'm afraid of what people think. Oh, I have to do this right now. I have to take care of family, and on and on and on. And excuses is what really holds people down and causes them to fail so many times. And it could be a lot of it fear of failure, fear of rejection, and a lot of times people have a fear of success. Maybe they don't feel like they're worthy, or they've been told enough times, no, you're not going to succeed, and they're actually afraid of it. Well, what will I do if I do be successful? How am I going to manage that? And so fear of success is also a big factor, as well as fear of failure, which keeps so many people down. And then Vince Lombardi, famous football coach, said the quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to their commitment to excellence, regardless of their chosen field of endeavor. So, somebody doesn't have to be a famous figure in order to be successful. It's that commitment to excellence. I remember when I was taking a trip out to California, and my last leg was on a little 18-seat puddle jumper, as people call them. And I thought, oh my gosh, it was so noisy and it was scary. And I thought, am I going to get out of here safely? But I remember watching that flight attendant, and it still sticks in my mind to this day. Here she was on this little puddle jumper, going around trying to, give people a beverage. That's all they had time for. And her posture was erect, perfectly groomed. She was so extremely professional. You'd have thought she was on one of the largest airplanes in the world, dealing with, high-class, very wealthy people, because everything she did showed so much class, so much consideration, so much concern for the other people. And I just sat there and marveled at her, thinking she's going to go far, because her professionalism was way above where she was, what she was doing, and how much money she was probably making on that little airline as opposed to something bigger. But what did she do? She kept her commitment to excellence, which would again follow her, reputation would follow her, and she would be promoted, and I'm sure she was many times after that. Winston Churchill, British Prime Minister, he was such a brave man. He stuttered and lisped when he grew up. He would faint when he was trying to practice for his big speeches. He had a lot of things against him, but he was one of the most powerful men in World War II. He said, never give in. Never, ever, ever, never give in. In nothing great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. And that's how he fought the war, with honor and good sense. And no matter what was coming against England, what was coming against the people fighting against the evil in the war, he never gave up. And he's just a little guy, had his big cigar there, but he never gave up and was a strong force in helping the Allies win that war. Henry David Thoreau, was a writer and a philosopher, and he said, in the long run, men hit only what they aim at. Well, let's stop and think about that. What are we aiming at? Are we aiming for the target? Are we looking around at other things that are going on? Who is our target? What is our target? So in the long run, we only hit what we aim at. So if we get distracted by a lot of other things and let people in that are distracting us, we're not aiming anymore. We're losing our focus to aim on the goal ahead. So think about that one. Robert Jarvik, I remember when the Jarvik heart came about. He was was the main doctor, working with some others, that invented the artificial heart for heart transplants. And I mean, how amazing is that? And he said, leaders are visionaries with a poorly developed sense of fear and no concept of the odds against them. They make the impossible happen. Because even though it looked like it was going to be impossible to create a heart that would compete with a human heart, that you could disconnect everything in the body around the heart and put this mechanical one in and connect it all back up, and then this person would actually be able to live. But he said it didn't matter on the odds, because that's when you make the impossible things happen, is you don't let the odds keep you down or get you down. Bernard Baruch of Financier said, making a success of the job at hand is the best step toward the kind you want. So again, that's kind of like the flight attendant I just mentioned. She made the best of the job of where she was, and that gave her the steps to begin going up to a position that would be probably pay a lot more too. And then you think of General Norman Schwarzkopf. I remember him in Desert Storm, when the Gulf War was first on. He says, I judge character not by how men deal with their superiors, but mostly how they deal with their subordinates. And that is so true, because the good leaders are the ones that build up the subordinates. They coach them, they train them, they teach them, and they're right alongside. They get in the trenches with them, not sit in an ivory tower, not be the boss, being commanding of everyone else, but how they deal with the subordinates, because they're the ones that are building up their team. I remember seeing that it's better for a group of lions, it's better for a group of deer to follow a lion into war than a group of lions to follow a deer into war, because we follow the leader. And so think about that too, how we treat our subordinates. I don't really like that word, but those that are working for us, those that are a part of our team where we are the leader. Another one, Andrew Carnegie, who was a very wealthy, famous industrialist, said, people who are unable to motivate themselves must be content with mediocrity, no matter how impressive their other talents. So again, think about that, a lot of people have a lot of talent, but then again, can't motivate themselves to do it, probably out of fear of rejection, failure, success, those types of things. So think about that. And then Dick Vermeil, American football coach, very, very famous football coach, said, if you don't invest very much, then defeat doesn't hurt very much. And winning is not very exciting. Why would we not invest very much in ourselves? Again, because maybe we're afraid if we do and we lose, we're going to be hurt. We're going to feel like a reject. We're going to feel like a big loser. So therefore, we don't even try. So again, we need to invest in ourselves in order to go forward. And people invest in themselves and they lose, they go bankrupt, and then they build empires or build big businesses that give jobs to other people because they kept investing in themselves even though they'd had so many setbacks in the past. Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol, British novelist, said, no one is useless in this world who lightens the burdens of others. And that's so true. Sometimes if we don't have a lot of money to spend or we don't have fancy things, we think, well, what good am I going to be? And yet the people that I have seen the most that actually help other people, mend other people's lives in so many ways are the ones who've been there themselves. Oh, been there, done that. I would much rather listen to and learn from someone who's been in the gutter, been all the way down, been hurt, lost everything, but then they built themselves back up and they show other people how to do it and how to avoid the same mistakes. Much rather listen to them. And they're the ones that seem to have the most impact in lightening other people's loads and lives, and that's powerful. Right injuries in sand and kindnesses in marble is a French proverb, and that's so true. Is okay, injuries, we write them in the sand, we think about them, we deal with them, and then let the rain wash them away. But kindnesses and marble, those are the ones that last, that stick with people in their lives. Okay, and then Nadia Comaneci, she won the 5-time gold medalist, okay, in the trampoline. And the only way to escape fear is to trample it beneath your feet. And I think that is so good. I believe she had a lot of things going on. I mean, she was from Romania. Country was having a lot of trouble. She had to fight with all of that, but she never gave up. So she said, in order to escape fear, you trample on it. And that's what she did to win all those gold medals. Very proud. And then George Washington, our first U.S. president, said, discipline is the soul of an army. Boy, did they go through a lot. And they froze to death, starved to death. It makes small numbers formidable, okay? And it gives success to the weak and esteem to all. So it's the ones that are fighters, the little guys who are going to fight and get in there. And so they're disciplined to stick with it no matter what is going on at the time. And then Bette Davis, the actress, some of you will remember, some of you won't. She said, no set goal achieved, satisfies. Success only breeds a new goal. The golden apple devoured has seeds. It is endless. So when you had a success in something that was really important in your heart, let those seeds continue to grow and take step forwards. Because sometimes you see someone who's a celebrity, they had maybe, one big song, one big movie, one big event that they won, or football trophies, and then try to live on that the rest of their lives. No, we let those seeds continue to grow and to impact other people's lives because of that. And then my last one here is our vision controls the way we think and therefore the way we act. And that's so true. What we see is going to control how we act. If we see failure, we're going to act failure. The vision we have of our jobs determines what we do and the opportunities we see or don't see. And so again, what are you looking at? What kind of visions? Who are the people you're following? And that was by Charles Koch of Koch Industries, Chairman and CEO. So I hope these have helped you today, and I wish you all the best, and we'll see you next time.